Hola, hello. So, everybody that don't understand Spanish, there's going to be one speaker speaking Spanish. So, you can take your headphones for direct translation there. Cualquier persona que no entienda el inglés, muchas ponencias van a ser en inglés. Por favor, coger los auriculares de traducción simultánea para poder escuchar la sesión. We have a little delay because this is the first session and it's in a previous session of the conference. So we have all the speakers right now and we have still some registration right now. So we are starting in a few minutes, okay? Like less than 5 minutes. So thank you for waiting. There are two. Which one? Which one?
Both one.
This one?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay, ready. Let me take it out. Now you can take it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which one? Well, I will open all of them. Okay. I will leave it open like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, hello. Still there are some people joining the room, but I think it's a good moment to start. Si alguien no habla inglés, hay unos cascos en la entrada que podéis coger. I'm just saying that if somebody doesn't speak English, you can get the headphones there. And still some people are coming because it's the first session and we still are running through the event. But since we are going to have the official inauguration then later in another building, it's better if we start and we can have some time to enjoy these wonderful people that are going to speak with us. So thank you very much for joining us in CONSULCon, 3 days of events and amazing people that we have the luck of having this year. A lot of people don't know each other and organizations and people doing amazing things, but we know all of you and you are doing really amazing things. So we wanted to start especially showing the work of really interesting organizations that are working worldwide in really amazing projects, that we are starting to collaborate with them also inside the CONSUL project, but they have worked much beyond that. And instead of just the traditional inauguration just by the mayor saying the initial words, we wanted to start with you. So we hope you're going to enjoy each other in this first session. So I want to introduce the first 4 speakers that are going to join us. That is Timo Valiharu from COS Finland, Simon Phipps from the Open Source Initiative, Shahid Ahmad from the Digital Empowerment Foundation India, Joara Marchesini from Article 19 Brazil, Patricia Gonzalez, that I'm not sure if I think she didn't arrive yet, okay, so not yet, and Vanessa Tonini, that is going to moderate the session. Perfect. So I'm going to introduce you very briefly who are these amazing people that we have today, because we are very lucky. First talk is going to be by Timo. He's working in the COS Finland. It's the Center for Open System and Solution. It's a non-profit association in Finland that promotes open source, open data, and open standards, and the growth and internationalization of the open source community and the business and the industry in Finland. It's one of the oldest and most active centers for openness, and it counts with more than 140 members, so it's a really important organizations. I'm going to present also Simon Phipps from the Open Source Initiative. It's a non-profit corporation that is working worldwide to educate about and advocate for the benefits of open source. Actually, it's an organization that was born the same month that it was used for the first time the term open source. And the first task was to define what open source is. So nowadays, the open source definition that is used worldwide is the one that they created. Among the affiliates of the Open Source Initiative, we have the Creative Commons, Debian, Linux Foundation, Mozilla Foundation, Wikimedia Foundation, so it's a really huge initiative. Then Shahid Ahmad from the Digital Empowerment Foundation India. It's a foundation that fights against information poverty and lack of access to information in rural and remote locations in India. So it's a very important task. And how to empower communities with digital literacy, with tools, with access to connectivity. And during the last 2 years, they have developed almost 25 programs in different areas of India, and with the participation of Google, of the European Union, of the Internet Society, among others. So it's really, they're doing a really great work there. Then we have also Joara Marchesini from Article 19 Brazil. They work as they present themselves, for a world where all people everywhere can freely express themselves and actively engage in public life without fear or discrimination. That we think is an amazing way to define your own work, so we're very happy. They fight for freedom of to speak and to know. They do a lot of advocacy to improve access to information, to monitor cases of violations against human rights defenders and journalists. They do a very important job on that, defending digital rights, participation. They work with very important organizations as the African Commission on Human and People Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, the OSCE, among others, so it's also big connections. And we have also the luck to have Vanessa, who is going to moderate the session. She's a developer specialized in web development. She has worked worldwide with teams from Madrid, from New York, from Buenos Aires, and he has given lectures globally, the whole world. She's part also, has been working in the Brazilian office of the World Wide Web Consortium, and she's a very active activist and defender of free software. She do a lot of volunteering activities to disseminate knowledge on software and technology, especially also to women, this activity. And is a very also active, important member of the CONSUL community. She's also helping us a lot to spread the CONSUL project in Brazil, in other countries. So we have been working for a lot of time with her in Media Lab and also abroad. So it's great that she's going to moderate the session. And yeah, and then let's going to hear what they want to tell us and the amazing work they are doing. Timo, ya me ocupo. Vale, Timo.
Yes.
Timo, you prefer that
Yes,
one?
that's better.
Okay.
Okay, it's like. Okay. Maybe I'll use this. Okay, thank you very much, and I'm very honored that you invited me to speak about the COS and also be a part of the CONSUL community and CONSUL family. It's very nice. Few words about the COS as a Center for Open Source Systems and Solutions. I have to say that Miguel was very thorough in this matter, so maybe I can skip maybe 5 minutes in this presentation. And as Miguel said, we are a non-profit organization. We are I think we are 14 years now been operating in open source. Operating in open source area. We started with open source, and then we have been expanding a little bit in open data, open interfaces, open innovation, open standards, and also open APIs. So we try to promote everything that is linked to the openness in technology sense. And we are sort of a lobbying organization, so we try to influence the legislation in Finland and in a way that, for example, municipalities would adopt models to acquire certain softwares with open source principle, not proprietary, and we have done actually very well in that sense. So in Finnish, kind of guidelines for municipalities to get software is stressed in a way that you should acquire open source software. If that's not possible, then you can think some other solutions. But we are in winning side in that sense. So we have a kind of a core members of our association. You can recognize the names, so Nokia and Huawei and Red Hat, and also I think that our latest member also tells a little bit about the world that is changing, because the Microsoft actually joined the course a few months ago. Of course, there's a lot of things that are proprietary, but there is also a lot of things in their cloud services that are actually open source, and they are doing quite a lot of work there. I wouldn't thought maybe 5 years ago that Microsoft would be a member, of course, but things change, and they need to also the companies to realize that if they want to be in the business, they need to be in the open source side of the business. So the proprietary is not that anymore. Particularly in Finland, it's difficult to make business if you are only proprietary software vendor. So what we do in a way that we try to get our goals done. Of course, we try to communicate the things. We are building ecosystems. So there is a few ecosystems that we are running. I'm going to run and tell a little bit about them later. And support our members' operations and particularly with projects. So we have quite a few projects that we try to do to achieve our goals as an association. So these are the few projects that we are doing, and I will go through them shortly. So some of you may know Mindtrek, and particularly Miguel was in Mindtrek this year having a presentation with CONSUL, and it's around 800 people, open source, smart city, technology conference that actually is a kind of a cross-technology conference in Finland. So it's a pretty big, and we do it yearly. So I'm also invite you to 2019 if you want to participate in Mindtrek. So this year there was over 800 people, 45 countries, and there are over 40 sponsors and partners in the conference. So you can look up the mindtrek.org if you are interested in that. We use the conference as a media tool to get our goals more clear to the people. So it's a kind of a gathering that community comes, and we try to convince also other people that what is the benefit in open source and openness in general. Then the second project that we are doing it's called Open City or Open Municipality, either way. So we try to help the municipalities to realize that open source and open data is actually a very important thing for the municipalities, and it's also a very democratic way to improve the kind of technology and of course participation also in municipalities. I have to say from Finland's perspective that in government open source is basically it's clear. They use open source, but in municipalities it's not that clear yet, so there's a lot of kind of I'm not saying resistance, but maybe lack of understanding that open source is and how to make that happen in communities. You all know this kind of dilemmas that they are saying that open source is not secure and there is no companies doing open source and stuff like that, which is nowadays totally wrong. It's opposite actually, so there's a lot of companies doing that. Then we are doing wireless network community, so more or less educational institutes and the municipalities. So we are roaming wireless Wi-Fi network. So basically, if you are living in Helsinki and the city of Helsinki is a member of roam.fi, then you go to the Tampere municipality, and that's also a member of roam.fi. So you can access to the wireless network with the same login that you are using in your home country, home municipality or city of Helsinki. And if you go to the university or Aalto University or Finnish Technical University and you go to Tampere, you can access automatically to the same network with the same login. So we are gathering kind of a Finnish-wide Wi-Fi network that is authenticated only once if you go to that area that the roam.fi is working. It's pretty interesting, but it's also pretty slow. So we have been running that 4 years, and year by year it goes, but it's not easy project. Okay, so there's maybe 20-25 members now in Finland in Rome. The next project that we are doing is Code Club for kids. So we are trying to promote open source coding and open source technology, and of course general technology awareness through kids. So age, let's say 8 to 14 years old kids, that we are having volunteers to have a coding teacher. Then we contact to the schools and we organize the premises. So there is a micro class and a computer class there. So the volunteer go to the school and uses the class there, and we will enroll the students and the children to the code club. And we try to help the children, and maybe the vision is that someday all Finnish children have gone to the code club, so it's 7 times that's 2 hours, so it's 7 times and 2 hours, and they get the basic understanding what coding is, and they learn to do a little bit stuff and learn how to code that the robot moves and stuff like that. So we try to make it fun. Then there is a little bit more complicated project that is actually in my core competencies. So it's an EduCloud Alliance. It's a community work, and we try to promote kind of a procurement of learning services. So the problem in learning services is that, for example, authentication is very difficult, because if you have like 7 vendors in Madrid, so city of Madrid actually needs to put the authentication to that services 7 times. So city of Madrid have to negotiate with Microsoft and Google and blah 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 in order to get the services there. We created in Finland with the help of Ministry of Education the EMPAS service. So actually it's a 1-time week authentication method that every Finnish schools and every Finnish companies are using. So if there is a, let's say, publishing house and 1 and publishing house 2 that are selling digital material to the schools, now they can, the students and the teachers authenticate only once, and they can go to the different vendors' services with very easy way. Yeah, and then the avoinkoodi.fi, it's a repository of Finnish open source projects in municipalities and in governmental areas. So you can go there and see that if there is an interesting code that you can actually use it in for example, your municipality. Okay, so minute short. Maybe we have questions later. So this is in overall what COS do. So we do quite a lot of interesting projects, and of course want to have CONSUL one of our next projects to help the open source in citizen participation to go to Finland and Nordic countries also. Thank you.
Thank you, Timon. Well, now we will start with Simon. Thank you. I will check your presentation.
Jago will do the magic.
Yes.
That one. Here we go. Hammer away. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here speaking to you at the inaugural CONSULCon. My name is Simon Phipps. I am the current elected president of the Open Source Initiative. I thought I would tell you a little about the Open Source Initiative, just in case you don't know about us. We were formed in 1998. We were formed by the same group of people who coined the term open source. And so we've existed as long as there has been the term open source used for software. As an organization, the core task that we do is to be the steward of the term open source and the open source definition, and to advocate for it internationally, and to defend the term as a term used only to describe software that creates software freedom. Around that core activity, we then have many other activities that we perform. I won't attempt to tell you about all of them, but we engage with international standards bodies about open standards and patents. We participate in legal actions in Europe and in North America in relation to the freedoms of software users and software developers. And we also gather together the organizations that develop open source software around the world as affiliates. And I sincerely hope that CONSUL is going to apply to join as an affiliate of the Open Source Initiative. I am delighted to be acting as a member of the advisory group for CONSUL, and we would love CONSUL to join us as well. There's some confusion about the relationship between open source and free software. And so I want to clarify that for you. Richard Stallman, who we will hear this afternoon, says that free software is software that gives the user freedom. That phrase we found in English-speaking countries was confusing. You have no confusion here in Spain because you have a great word that means freedom, which is different from the word that means you don't have to pay. But in English-speaking countries, free, the first thing that comes to mind is not having to pay. And people who speak English as a first language get very confused by the word. And you spend a lot of time having to help them understand that no, we're not talking about the price, we're talking about the freedom. And so 20 years ago, a group of people decided to run a marketing campaign for free software. And they decided, with the advice of somebody called Christine Peterson, to use the phrase open source as a marketing slogan for free software. And so that is what open source is. Open source is a marketing campaign for free software. That is the only difference. Now, in practical terms, what that means is that the freedoms that come from free software, which it's easy to speak about in English to your friends who know what you are talking about, can now be advanced at work and in government as well. Because we no longer have to confuse people by talking about the price. We can instead focus on the freedom. And that's why I believe that open source is fundamental to citizen democracy, because it sets software developers free to create the software that they need and to collaborate with other software developers. And so within OSI, we have many affiliates who focus on activities that are good for citizens. We have the US National Association of Voting Officials is a member of OSI, and they try to make sure that all of America's voting software is open source software rather than proprietary software that can't be reviewed. We have an organization that creates software for international aid to support aid organizations. We have organizations in many countries that advance software for educational purposes. I believe that open source software is a necessary precondition for democracy in the 21st century. That without open source software, you can never be sure you are free. You always have to trust the person who holds the keys. And so open source is about removing the obstacles to democracy. It is about setting developers free to collaborate and ensuring that citizens are free when they use the software that developers make. Lawrence Lessig, in his book Code, says that code is law. What he means by that is that it doesn't matter what the law says if the software makes you a slave. Without open source, we cannot know that the law that we all encounter throughout Europe and throughout the world is actually being applied justly. You cannot know that you are free if the software that charges you your taxes, if the software that helps a judge decide your prison sentence, if the software that helps the hospital decide your treatment, if the software that is running your pacemaker or some other bodily function that is mediated by a computer, if you can't see the software, you don't know you're free. And so I think this is a fundamental that we have to focus on. And I'm thrilled that CONSUL is creating citizen cooperation with open source software. Those two things are fundamental in the 21st century. Empowering citizens to run their own lives and doing it with software that everybody can understand and change and see. So I very much welcome the project at CONSUL, and I look forward to having OSI collaborate with it, and I would very much welcome the project as a new affiliate when the time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Now, Aling? how can I say? Shahin. Oh, okay. Please, come on. Shahin.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting for speaking. My name is Shahid Ahmed. I'm working with the Digital Empowerment Foundation. It is a Delhi-based NGO, non-profit organizations. We are New Delhi-based non-profit Digital Empowerment Foundation has been working since 2002 to connect the unreached and unserved community of India. And you know very well, India is just 30% broadband is connection, and the 70% of people is unconnected. That's why we are working in this field. We believe in the power of the information and communicate and empower. DF aim to find sustainable digital solution to overcome information poverty among rural and marginalized community in backward and remote district across India-wide geography. Our approach actually Actually, we taking mostly 6 kind of the pillars we approaching to serve the community by access and infrastructures. In access and infrastructure, we establish village level community hub to provide digital tool, digital service, digital literacy, and access to the internet. And the second is the education and empower. We introduce ICT tool in teaching and learning space to capacity building and skill development. And the third, governance and citizen service. We enable access to government scheme, services, and entitlement to strengthen citizen rights. And the fourth, market and social enterprise. We introduce digital intervention to establish market linkages and improve livelihood of the rural entrepreneurs and artisans. And the fifth, knowledge hub and network. We identify, facilitate, and mentor innovator who use digital intervention for the social development. And the sixth, research and advocacy. We believe access to the internet is a human right that encourages equal opportunity. Our work serve. Mostly we work with the tribal community, minority community, backward community, individuals, households, panchayat, schools, Anganwadi, health center, self-help group, a small enterprise, post office, and artisan. Right now, we working in India, 22 states, 100 districts, and 345 locations. We have impacted life, 5 million digital empowerment, 2.5 million women digital enable, and 500,000 people avail entitlement, and 20,000 artisan digital empowered, 15,000 trained in digital content creation and disseminations, 8,000 digital innovations and documented, 6,000 NGO digitally enabled, 500 Gram Sabha online, 300 digital resource center set up. We aim to reach all 272 backward districts of India to digitally enable marginalized and unserved community and bring them out of information poverty and empower them with the digital tool and technology to improve their lives. Access and infrastructures. In this area, we established Community Information Resource Center. It's a small center in a village level. And our community-oriented infrastructure informations hub to create digitally literate, information empowered, and equitable communication across country. Wireless for community. And you know, 70% of people in India are unconnected. That's why we're doing wireless for community. We're developing our own infrastructure through wireless. That's why we call the wireless for the community is an initiative of the DF and Internet Society that has been supported by the various partners over the year. It's aimed to connect rural and remote locations of India where mainstream internet service providers are not willing to provide internet connectivity through frugal technology and unlicensed spectrum band. Education and education and empowerment through National Digital Literacy Mission (NDLM). We through this scheme we providing the training to the grassroots people. Internet Sathi program. We also providing women to understand how to use the internet, and then they further giving the training how to use the mobiles and how to use the internet. and district library program. We also strengthening the digital library, and the another program is the Raise English Digital and Girls Educations, integrated approach to technology in educations, governance and citizen service. And DG Prayag is a joint initiative of the Axis Bank and the DF was the launch immediately after the historical demonetization in the November 2016, and it's aimed to imparting the digital financial literacy to individual SAGs and entrepreneurs in the rural community, and where the modern development in the banking have not yet been properly covered. And the Suchna Seva and Suchnapreneurs, these all are the program we running in our rural area. And the market and the social enterprise, digital cluster development program, ENGO program, and 52 Parinde e-heritage projects, and knowledge and hub network. And actually, I think that time is limited, so I have to finish. And thank you.
Thank you. Joara?
Hola a todos, buenas tardes. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación. Yo voy a pedir para hablar en portuñol, porque he hecho 10 horas de vuelo justo ahora y no me sale otra cosa. Pero si no me entendéis, habrá un momento de preguntas y hablaremos. Sorry. Bueno, mi nombre es Joara Marquesini, yo trabajo en Artículo 19 Brasil. Hace ya más de 5 años que trabajo con acceso a información, y para los que no conocéis, Artículo 19 es una organización de derechos humanos internacional que trabaja con acceso a información y libertad de expresión. Nosotros tenemos oficinas en todos los lugares del mundo y la oficina de Brasil es responsable por Sudamérica. Nosotros partimos del principio que cuando hablamos de participación, la primera cosa es que la gente sepa dónde es, cómo participar, ¿no? La primera análisis es, si no tengo información sobre los procesos participativos o sobre la toma de decisión, ¿cómo puedo aportar? Ese es el primer punto de partida, y ahí analizamos cómo es difícil, y en contexto de Latinoamérica y específicamente de Brasil, conocer esa información sobre participación pública. Algunos ejemplos, ¿no? Nosotros entramos en las páginas web de los sitios y no hay ninguna información sobre participación pública. Yo no sé cuándo son las conferencias, qué ha sido el resultado de las conferencias anteriores, o sea, no hay un seguimiento de la participación activa. También yo veo, y la organización ha encontrado, que a nivel municipal eso es cada vez más difícil. O sea, si estamos hablando de una ciudad que es pequeña, los mecanismos de participación van a ser más restrictos y hay menos información sobre ellos. Específicamente en Brasil, nosotros tenemos bastantes mecanismos de consulta. La verdad es que hacemos buenas leyes, pero no las seguimos. Eso pasa en varias partes del mundo, ¿no? Pero básicamente el problema es que los consejos, las formas de participación son consultivas. Y cuando llega la participación en esos momentos de participación, ya han decidido todo. Entonces la gente va ahí, pero es un poco más para contarles lo que pasó, que para que participen, que para que opinen y para que cambien algo, ¿no? Entonces es ahí el momento en que tenemos más conflictos, principalmente en áreas como medio ambiente. Podéis imaginar, ¿no?, lo que es estar al lado de una obra de construcción y te echan de esta obra, pero no te explican qué pasó o ni siquiera para dónde vas a estar. Es un poco el contexto que tenemos ahora en Latinoamérica. Pero algunas lo que vemos es que la tecnología de alguna manera puede cambiar eso, puede cambiar el descrédito que la gente tiene ahora de los mecanismos tradicionales de participación. La verdad es que la gente dice, yo no tengo tiempo para ir hasta allá y participar si no va a cambiar nada. Entonces, nosotros vemos que la tecnología, además de tener aplicativos, tiene que apoyar los mecanismos más tradicionales de participación. Y en eso no sé cuánto tiempo aún tengo, pero gustaría de comentar algunas experiencias que estamos analizando. La primera de ellas es la implementación de gobierno abierto en Brasil. Algunos conocéis como OGP o AGA, no sé cómo habláis aquí. Nosotros seguimos tanto a nivel nacional como a nivel municipal. Y una experiencia que nos pareció interesante comentar es el programa Agentes de Gobierno Abierto, que ha sido implementado por la ciudad de São Paulo, que la idea justo era buscar personas que ya estaban haciendo cosas relacionadas a tecnología, a participación, a información, y fomentar a que esas personas en sus propias comunidades hablaran de gobierno abierto y de tecnología, ¿no? Es un primer nivel de formación, pero lo interesante es que además de tener paridad de género, había en el momento una distribución territorial, porque no sé cómo es en Madrid, pero en São Paulo es muy grande y la gran mayoría de las cosas de participación es en el centro. Entonces tú imaginas que es una persona que vive en la zona leste y que tienes que tardar 2 horas para ir a un sitio a participar de algo. Es bastante complicado. Un otro ejemplo que nos gustaría hablar y va un poco en la línea de lo que comentaba antes mis compañeros acerca del miedo que hay en la tecnología, ¿no? Nosotros participamos de la negociación del Acuerdo de Escazú, no sé si conocéis, es el primer acuerdo mundial para Latinoamérica y Caribe que habla de los defensores ambientales. Es un acuerdo de acceso a información, participación y acceso a justicia en temas ambientales, y si miráis todo el acuerdo que salió este año, solo hay una mención de datos abiertos. Y todo el tiempo estuvimos hablando, hay que incentivar las nuevas tecnologías, hay que poner eso en el acuerdo, y el discurso era, no, eso es muy peligroso, hay que pensar en la seguridad, o sea, no puede ser que estamos en 2018 y que un acuerdo que hable de acceso a información y participación no incluya nada de tecnología. Eso demuestra que nuestros gobiernos de alguna manera están poco involucrados en el tema y aún tienen mucho miedo. Ya voy. ¿Y por qué necesitamos cambiar este panorama? Por lo menos en Brasil vemos que hay mucha desigualdad y desigualdad de participación. Entonces, la participación de alguna manera y la tecnología tiene que ser para incluir nuevas personas y no ser una otra herramienta de exclusión. Ese es el gran punto que tenemos trabajando. Y así como habló el compañero de India, nosotros también estamos trabajando con las redes comunitarias, que es intentar instalar redes en las comunidades que son más aisladas, que no tienen acceso a la internet, no solo para que tengan internet, para que tengan también intranet, que es cómo compartir información de manera segura y cómo la tecnología puede ser una forma de organización social. Y eso ahora está muy en discusión en Brasil, porque nuestro momento político es bastante complicado y estamos discutiendo cómo la tecnología al mismo tiempo nos va a vigilar aún más como organizaciones sociales, pero cómo podemos nosotros responder a estas amenazas usando la tecnología, siendo un poco más listos, por así decir, y estamos preparados para responder a ese contexto. Entonces, es mucho gusto estar aquí. Ojalá esos 3 días nos traigan muchas ideas. Y yo he traído algunos materiales, están en portugués, pero hay uno en castellano y uno en inglés, por si tenéis más interés de conocer nuestro trabajo. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias, Joara. Bueno, ahora tenemos algún tiempo para preguntas. Nosotros tenemos 10 minutos para preguntas. ¿Alguien creo que ya podemos abrir para ustedes porque hay poco tiempo. ¿Alguien hay una pregunta? ¿No? Aquí una pregunta.
Me llamo Maurilio, hago una pregunta para Simon Phillips de Open Source Initiative. Los softwares libres o open source, como lo llamó, me parece que es complicado compararlos con una ley porque como el código puede ser cambiado en tiempo de ejecución o rápidamente, se puede tener otro tipo de código, no es como una base de datos inmutable. Entonces, no puedo compararlo con una ley, me parece algo imposible comparar un código que no es inmutable con algo que se puede cambiar en tiempo de ejecución. Entonces, a mí no es posible compararlo con una ley, no sé.
Okay. I recommend Lawrence Lessig's book. It is very good. It is called Code. There is a second edition called Code 2.0, and he explains at great length in there. What I'm meaning when I'm saying code is law, imagine that you are in court and you've just been found guilty of a crime, and the law says how long you should spend in prison. Now in the UK, the court uses a piece of software that uses information about you to calculate how big a risk you are to society and to decide how long you should spend in prison. The software that does that was implemented by a programmer. It was not implemented by Parliament. Parliament wrote the law, and then the programmer interpreted it. Your experience of the law is not the experience of the law that Parliament wrote. It is the experience of the program that the programmer wrote. So for you, the code is the law. If you can't see the code, you don't know whether you are being sentenced to the right time in prison. You can't challenge what is happening to you if it has been done wrong, because you can't prove anything was done wrong. And this principle that the experience of law for the citizen is the software that implements the law is becoming dominant throughout the world. It is particularly the case in countries like China, where it has become a very advanced system of controlling the population. But it is true here in Spain, it is true throughout Europe, it is true in America, that the tax you pay is calculated by the software, and you can't see whether it got it right. Your vote, when you cast a vote in America, if you're not given a piece of paper, you can't prove the vote actually counted. If you are working in a hospital and you are denied treatment by a piece of software that calculates whether you were worth treating, if it's not open source, you can't check it was done legally. So that's what I mean when I say code is law. The law is the law, obviously, but your experience of the law is coming through the software. And if you can't see the source code, you don't know whether you're being treated with justice.
I have one comment. We are talking about exactly the same things in Finland linked to the big infrastructure projects, for example, building a metro. So when you are building a metro, there is people and metro vendors saying that, okay, this is a very effective and a very cost-effective, project, but you cannot see the algorithms behind. So you don't understand exactly that how they calculate, how they do it, the cost effectiveness when they go to the politicians and say that this is a good construction project. So at the end of the day, the project will cost 1 billion and the end project is 2 billion. and nobody can see that what was the argument before. Are they lying? Are they rating the code in a way that it shows it's cheap, but it's not cheap at the end of the day? So the openness of the code and also in the future openness of artificial intelligence systems it's very important that we know that how the systems actually treat the data and as a human being in a way that we can see that what are the grounds for the decisions and how they are making it.
There is one more question there and one there, but we don't have time anymore. Okay, sorry. Well, thank you for all. Thank you for these presentations and for the audience. Gracias.
Sorry about the time limits, but at 5 we have to leave very sharp because it will be the official inauguration of the meeting at 5:30, and it's going to be in another building, so we have to walk a bit or take a bus to arrive there. So we want to be there for the official speaker, the mayor, and the other people. Also, very interesting people that will speak, like Beth Novek, president of the GovLab, and other people. So we have to be a bit more sharp on these sessions to be able to have the other sessions. But anyway, the people who have been talking will be here the rest of the 2 days, so you can find them at any moment and get into very interesting talk with them. So we have a next session with Andreas, that is going to moderate the session and is going to introduce the different panels. Andreas from Involve UK. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome. We're going to have obviously finish at 5 on the dot, so let's get straight into it. I'm going to introduce each of the speakers to come up to the stage here, and I'll just introduce them quickly and then we'll start into the discussion. So first I'll invite up Peter Beck from Nesta, which is a global innovation foundation working currently in more than 150 projects worldwide. They've developed toolkits for innovation translated into 12 languages, supported the creation of new innovation labs from Chile to the Emirates, working with agencies like the UNDP and World Bank, and supporting new ways for entrepreneurship through their Innovation Growth Lab with the support from dozens of countries promoting innovation to big challenges through the Challenge Prize Center and other global prizes, working in partnership with more than 30 national governments. Quite a lot. Yeah. No, it's fine. Next, Josine Peterson. Ah, there you are. Hi. Who is Network Democracy, which is a platform for democratic innovation from the Netherlands, working to renew democracy and create more transparency and accountability. They have a partnership with the Ministry of the Interior, with whom they are making a reality for dozens of cities of the Netherlands to implement open source tools for participation. They're a board member of the European Civic Forum, an important network of European civil society organizations, and also part of the program of Oxfam Novib around democratic innovation and several European programs. Next, Miha Lepe. Yeah, have I said that right? Or, yeah? Miha Lepe, okay, fantastic. From Danes je Nove Dan, an organization based in Slovenia, creating tools and campaigns for political participation and transparency, which has had a huge impact at the Parliament. As a parliameter, they analyze Parliament data, blockchain solutions for digital elections, critical visions of students to the public space, participatory budgeting, etc. They believe in community, critical thought, hacking the web to create a safe, inclusive, and modern space and pleasure. Finally, Wojciech Sanko from Państwo's Foundation, which is a Polish foundation for the development of democracy, transparency, and civic engagement, partners of the Amidia Network and My Society, They produce open works for citizens on public data, work on the implementation of participation technologies, and organize many events around issues such as public information, corruption, digital democracy, and so on. In particular, they're the organizers of the Personal Democracy Forum in Central and Eastern Europe, which is probably the most important event in Eastern Europe around democracy and transparency. I didn't actually say myself either. I'm Andreas Pavlou, the network leader in Volve, which is one of the leading public participation charities in the UK. I'm also the coordinator of the Open Government Network, which pushes government, which is civil society and government working together to make open government reforms for greater transparency, participation, and accountability. So our session is about participation and democracy in Europe, given the crisis of credibility that some might argue, of traditional post-war politics. We've seen a rise in new political forces, new ways of participating, and this obviously has brought a challenge to the ways that our democracies work. I'd like to first bring up our first speaker. We'll talk about this obviously after the first speakers. I'd like Peter to come up first, if that's okay, to do your presentation about Nesta. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I've given myself 5 minutes to give you an introduction to a massive organization with 200 people working all over the world, so that's going to be fine. On the topic we're talking about, I guess I have a particular kind of interest, being a Danish person with a British wife and a daughter with 2 different nationalities living in London, which is quite interesting in these current times. So what is Nesta? You've already told people who we are, what we do, but essentially we are an innovation foundation with around about £450 million set up to support innovation for the common good. So how can we use new ideas and processes around innovation to solve big social challenges? We work in kind of 5 key areas for the next 3 years: education, healthcare, the creative economy, government innovation and innovation policy, and then we also do some kind of exploration of new areas and topics. Most of our work is naturally in the UK and Europe. We, amongst others, do a lot of great work with the Pansper Foundation on a project for the European Commission, but we also work globally. I think we recognise the importance of kind of hoovering up all the great ideas happening around us, bring them back to the UK and sharing them back out to all of our partners. And one of my roles is trying to do that. So we do lots of work that involves research, but we also do investments. We back new companies and that kind of demonstrate you can run a company that both have a social mission as well as make a profit and make a difference. We publish tons of reports that people never read, except for maybe one politician who will take it up and kind of use that to drive change, but also practice guides where people can get the tools and toolkits on how to do innovation and solve particular problems and challenges. And we do lots of other stuff, but I'm going to spend the next 3 minutes telling you about a new thing I'm working on, which is this Center for Collective Intelligence Design. So our CEO, Jeff, recently wrote a book where he describes this in 260 pages, but essentially our work on collective intelligence is trying to figure out how can we, as groups of people, come together and use our collective knowledge, capacity and assets to solve challenges. And I think that's in very old school crowdsourcing, kind of group behavior. There's lots of work around that. But I guess with the advent of technology like AI and machine learning, for example, how can we use those tools to amplify how groups work together and enable them to solve challenges at even bigger scale, to move from small groups to larger groups? And how can we kind of flip the debate around AI, for example, to be something that's about kind of constructing new groupings for people, and as the previous presenter talked about, like, you know, these kind of black boxes that decide where people go, how they're judged, what healthcare they get, something that empowers people to take control over their lives, empower their communities and so on. This builds on lots of work we've been doing in different boxes across Nesta for the last couple of years. I'd really recommend you to have a look at our report on digital democracy, which, amongst others, features a couple of people in the room already, I think, and I work for the UNDP around governing with collective intelligence. And do check out the website as well, mentioned over there. It features some of our great partners and the work they do around what we call technology and social innovation across Europe. So I've told you what that is. I think there are kind of 3 components to what we would like to do around collective intelligence. One, to make sure that we make the most of the data, information, knowledge, evidence, creativity, and help people use all that insight to make the best possible decisions. I think we have a lot of evidence that people don't always do that, and that leads to some pretty poor outcomes. But also make sure that we are aware of all the different tools that are out there, from CONSULCon to sensors, AI platforms, crowdsourcing, to help people do this right. But also don't miss the importance of curation and kind of design of these processes. I think sometimes From our experience, people have deployed a random tool in the random part of the process, but not thought about the wider implications. For example, guaranteeing that even if you use a digital platform, how do you then make sure that that doesn't create different biases and so on. I'm not going to talk you through all this, but what we started thinking about is, for anyone who's kind of grappling with how to solve for challenges, what are the different kinds of intelligence that you should work on? And there are many. But then following on from that, what are all the different tools out there that kind of enable this? And again, there are many, and I'm going to tell you about them. But just this is the kind of work we're doing at the moment, trying to kind of figure out how can we kind of create a repository and an insight around how do we best design for collective intelligence. And I would say it's a hypothesis, but we know, because we know from great projects already, that we didn't get this right. I think this enables us to do four things, which kind of speaks to the challenge that you mentioned earlier. One, I think it helps us as a collective, as a society, understand problems better. It helps us better develop the right ideas and arguments. It helps us make decisions on the back of those. And it helps us provide scrutiny and improve what we do. So kind of continuing to improve. So just reflecting on the flight over here, like what does that really mean for the topic that we're discussing today? Well, I think three things. We really rarely make the best use of data and information. We rarely use the tools we have to our availability, and there's little attention given to design. So we kind of try and fix that with our work, and we hope we can work with you on this. I think there's another kind of bigger challenge, actually, and this relates to the work that we're doing with the CONSUL Foundation, which is that I think at the core of a healthy society and a transparent society and a strong civil society. And we have this kind of increasing gap where technology is changing how laws are made, how healthcare works, how government works. But the organizations that we rely on to scrutinize public services, to scrutinize politicians, civil society organizations, really struggle with technology. There's no Silicon Valley for a small charity based in Deptford. And actually, we also need to make sure that they understand technology and they make the most of technology and those tools in the way that they work. We need the repository that we're creating, and now I'm out of time. But I was going to say, I think we can talk about all this stuff, and that was great, but we still also need to recognize that there are some wider systemic issues that we need to fix as well, and that's outside collective intelligence, i.e. the people arguing for a second Brexit, now that we have more knowledge around the complications, probably need to recognize that inequality is still an issue in the UK. People are still frustrated, they still worry about their future work, they still worry about the impact of automation. The North and the South will have a huge difference between them, and they remain challenges even though we know more about kind of what Brexit means for the UK, and we shouldn't forget that. I did put in this slide just because I think it's a great example of the kind of investment challenge. Can I have 30 seconds more? Okay. As you might know, Westminster is falling down in the UK, right? This kind of fantastic hallmark of democracy is just not really working anymore. Like the lights are going out, the bench is falling apart, rooms are flooding. So we just committed £3.5 billion to restoring Westminster. The building, the physical infrastructure for democracy. But there's almost no money set aside for fixing democracy. As in, we're fixing the walls, the plugs, the plumbing, but there's no money going into like new platforms, new ways of involving citizens. We're not even moving it. We said, why don't we just move? You're going to spend 5 years restoring Westminster at least. Move it to Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle. Take it out of the but no, just going around the corner instead. But one of the things we're trying to do now is saying, well, can we start like picking around the edges and doing some interesting stuff? So my colleague Theo, who is also the author of the report I mentioned earlier, is starting doing some work on select committees. So they're like, they're at the heart of how policy is being made in the UK. Something like 40% of policy comes out of select committees. And looking at how can we use digital tools to increase engagement so it's not just all those old white men sitting in a room, they're making decisions and discussing kind of topics. And what are the digital tools like CONSUL and others that can kind of be used to improve that conversation, which I'm really excited about. And it will cost a fraction of the 3.5 billion, but will hopefully have an even bigger impact on democracy. So that was me rattling through a lot of work, and apologies to the translator. I should have said that as well, because I speak very fast. Anyway, sorry.
Thank you, Peter. Justine? Okay, thank you. We'll move straight on to Justine. There's a lot to think about in what you've presented before, but we'll move over to the Netherlands now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I don't think I can speak as fast as the person before me, but it has also to do with my English probably, so I will do my best. I will go into the project EDEN, And I also will tell something along the way about network democracy. Probably a lot, but I will try to put as much as possible in 10 minutes. But why I would like to tell something about this project is because it is a project that we really developed also in cooperation with CONSUL. And I would also make use of the opportunity to thank the people from CONSUL for inviting, and also Iago for organizing, and Miguel and Jose Maria, because it is a lot of work to organize things like this. EDM was a project that was initiated 2 years ago, and we initiated it together with the Ministry of Internal Affairs in the Netherlands. And actually the whole idea was actually based on a project of Nesta, which is, so that is nice. I will come up to that later. But Waag Society, one of the partners in the project, in the Decent project, was also connected to this cooperation, and we decided actually to invite 3 partners to introduce open source software for municipalities in the Netherlands. One of the project was CONSUL, Decide Madrid. The other one was Better Reykjavik. And we have also a local Amsterdam partner, Stem van West, the voice of Amsterdam West. And we translated that tool because it was made in closed source software. We translated that in open source software. And now there's a 2-year follow-up, and 10 municipalities are now experimenting, working with the tools. 5 of the municipalities chose to work with CONSUL. So we actually already cooperate with CONSUL for the last few years, and we are very happy with that and hope that we can proceed it. But of course there are also difficulties coming up in this implementation in the Dutch system, because people think the Netherlands is a super open, tolerant country, but in fact a lot of things have to be opened up, and when they are opening up, then it is very difficult. Network democracy, for example, founded one of a platform that's called Publix. Publix is a leaking website for citizens to leak to the press. Now this platform is an independent platform, and it has already also follow-ups in Indonesia, Mexico and Nigeria. We organized International Whistleblowers Conference. We organized also a platform that we did not manage to get off the ground because it was too difficult to get the information there, Transparent Nederland. So it was about transparency and the relations between people in power and their former activities. We organized hackathons in the parliament. But we do not only work on vertical lines, we also work on horizontal projects, like a citizens summit in Amsterdam, actually based on the ideas of the G1000 in Belgium. And actually in 2014, we won already a prize for being radical innovators. What's interesting is that the Dutch government was very inspired by the British sort of do-it-yourself mentality and the right to challenge. So there was a lot happening in a few years ago that the government did not want to do all these tasks they are actually for. So they just gave a lot of responsibilities back to citizens. And we started then as a sort of a joke, but it was actually became a project which is huge now, a project that is crowdsourcing neighborhood activities. It's called For Je Buurt. And we also already, this platform is now independent, and it already has crowdfunded 4 million euros. I think I have to already run up with this. But we have also a series of discussions which is called New Democracy, based on innovation theory. And actually, in every discussion, it's now we're now at 33 debates that we organized. We always focus on system critics and and on the other hand on bottom-up initiatives, interesting bottom-up initiatives. And we also see how problems in the system can be solved by things happening in society. It was already mentioned that we worked in the Emotive project, which was a cooperation between several partners in the world. It was not a European project, but it was cooperation with South Africa, Uganda, and Brazil, UNESCO in Brazil. And it was based on radical democracy and how you could actually build up a better accountability system, digital accountability system together. Now, and here's the Decent project, which was actually the basis of the project we are working now on with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with the Waag Society, but also with the ICT partner of the Dutch government. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. It's interesting to see how somewhere like the Netherlands, which is always seen as being so transparent and more open and kind of advanced in many ways, actually...
My name is Miha Lepe. I'm from Slovenia. I work at a Slovenian civil tech NGO called Danes je nov dan, or Today is a New Day in English. Our work mostly is in encouraging civil participation and having a dialogue about public affairs and bringing light to issues in civil society, mostly, but not exclusively, on digital platforms. Now, with our work, we encourage critical thinking, and what we do is make campaigns, petitions, and other projects using open source tools or making our own open source tools if none exist or don't suit our needs. But mostly, what we do is about bringing more transparency to the public process and to educate people about it. Now, our institute's work is completely transparent, and everything we do is open source and open for everyone to use. Now, because we were founded by mostly under 30-year-olds and we consist of young people, a lot of our campaigns and things and our work is targeted at younger people and the web generation and the people that basically live on digital and on internet media. Now, our biggest project today was Parliameter, which is a tool that shows and analyzes our Slovenian parliament and shows data about votings and MPs and presents it in an easy to understand fashion with simple cards that can be shared on social media or via links or embedded into publications on the internet. Now, this tool was made with the collaboration of and the funding of Google D&I, and this year we're working on and have brought this tool to Croatia, and we're working with Poland to bring it there too. Now, our most recent project was about participatory budgeting, so this is, I think, the most important thing and why I'm here. And we were just a couple of months ago, we were working with one of our municipalities of Kranjska Gora to bring participatory budgeting specifically for young people, and we used CONSUL to do that. Now, we just had local elections for mayor, and we made the campaign for getting promises from candidates that run for mayor in those elections that should, if they want to support participatory budgeting. And in the end, we got more than 200 promises from candidates that that promised to enact participatory budgeting in their municipality. In the process of reaching out to those candidates, we discovered that some of them already had plans on enacting participatory budgeting, and some of them even knew of CONSUL and were planning to use it, which is a great thing for open source. But on the other hand, a bunch of candidates did not know what participatory budgeting even is, or they thought there was something different than it really is, so we had to educate them on that too. Even though participatory budgeting is not really known across Slovenia, we have some municipalities that already have or are currently implementing participatory budgeting. And actually, in all 3 municipalities that currently run participatory budgeting, they're targeted also to younger people and have a lower limit age set at 15-year-olds so that you can participate. Now, we're very excited about the future of participatory budgeting on a local level in Slovenia, and we will hold the elected mayors that promised participatory budgeting. We will hold them to that promise, and we hope to work together with them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Iha. It's great to see something like participatory budgeting, which has been pioneered in places like Madrid and Paris, in Europe at least, is now getting further out and being spread to other places as well. Finally, I'd like to invite Wojciech up to talk about the work of the Panista.
Hello, I'm really happy to be here in CONSUL conference. We did not implement CONSUL in Poland yet, but we're still talking with 2 cities and have good contact and they have good attitude. Maybe we can put in work this tool. But I'm here to talk about e-Państwo Foundation. It means like e-government foundation. I don't have a presentation. I show you that we have on the web. We are, oh, this English version, great. Our work focusing on the some few areas, and general, our aim is to develop democracy, open, transparent authorities and civic engagement, and using technology and all old stuff and old style work in public issue. It's like in our area, for example, in open data, we not only asking out local or governmental authorities about the public data, big public databases, but we just asking them about some public meetings between authorities, for example, between some minister with high court, and they don't want to give us this information, and we're fighting for that and trying to push them to change their habits that they're doing. Particularly I'm Code for Poland program manager. When we are trying to connect, and we're connecting activists and people from IT world. It means like not only developers and programmers, it means like UX designers, UX researchers, product owners, because this is like they can choose their own projects. Like we are not pushing them in one project. They have free to take what they want. And it's, for example, the biggest project that we are trying to finish is like we connect group of programmers with some organization which is trying to show some big and bad stuff with reprivatization. It means like a lot of old buildings in Poland. There were a mafia of people who selling those buildings with, of course, against the law. And we using open data, those programmers, some public decision that they took from local council, and we're trying to make to work this together to show who particular is involved with this scam, because this is a lot of money. Public money is giving them for those in that issue. Another big project is register.io. Simply and general is showing information about National Court Register. It means like register of entrepreneurs. And you can easily see the connections between people with other people, and we're taking that information from government, but the government they don't want, or they can't show this in nice, in good, it's like with good UX and so on. You can easily check this connection between people in companies. This is mostly for business, but for us it's really important to show the public information in a good way, because we have the culture of hiding in our public institutions. We're fighting with that, we're pushing them to show us, but sometimes it's very hard. Even High Court of Poland, in Poland, it's like they play with us. You know, if they can use if they could use some bad way to not give us the information, they use that way. We don't know why they're doing that, but this culture of hiding, we're trying to change this. Also we organizing a big conference, Personal Democracy Forum. It's a big conference for 400 people, and it's about technology, social media, and all this stuff. And next year, that will be in 4 and 5 of April. The main theme is like in whom we trust, and we want to talk about broken feedback circle. This is about public participation process. We have a big problem in Poland that mostly in the local level, not only, we have a fake experience of public consultation process. In a lot of cases, the decision is already made, and they consulting, we don't know what. It's like a therapy, or we don't know what. This is like really hard stuff, and we have this from many years, and I think this because of culture of this hiding, and the local governments, they don't want to share the decisions, they don't want to take this decision with people. It's like now it's like the cities, they are new. It's like maybe they can do a revolution, because we have a national level, we have really fucked up situation, and in the cities they have opportunity to show for the people that they are open, but they are not doing that. They're doing PR, just simply PR to telling that for the people and for NGOs they are open. It's like it's not enough. It's not enough. Really, it's not enough. And we're working on that. What more? Maybe that's it. This is my first speech in that language, in that kind of event. If you wanna, if you want some information from me more, or some specific details about Code for Poland, for example, I'm for you in a private way. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Wojciech. It looks like there's a lot still to do in Poland then, in terms of opening up the government and making it more participatory as well, and accountable. So I just want, actually I'm going to pass, I think this, yeah, pass this to you guys. Easier than coming up and back and forth. We've got about 25 minutes before we have to finish. So I thought I'd start with opening up the discussion a little bit by looking more broadly, I guess, at the state of Europe and where we are in terms of openness, where we are in terms of citizen participation. And with the great work that you guys are doing in each of your countries, what have you seen, I guess, which has particularly inspired you, but what also has maybe you've seen that it has concerned you about the way that government is more or less open or less participative than maybe you would expect? Does anyone want to start maybe with...
I mean, first last time, please.
It's like you're asking about what?
So sorry, does with all the work that you've done, what has given you hope about the way that citizens participate in your country, or the way that the government is more open?
It's like because like I see that the people are really interesting. More people are interested in public issues. This is good for me. But because of education and because of level of media and public sphere, at the level of like quality of dispute and discourse, public discourse, they don't understand how to understand those things public. They feel that they're interested in this, but they are easy for manipulating. Really, I think this is because of our education. We don't have anything about it in public schools, and for me it's like bad. But it's good that people are interesting, and for me, the cities should doing a more public participation process in a deliberative way, because you can put the education piece of education, a lot of piece of education. For example, like deliberative polls. There is a lot of education there. You have experts there, but I don't know how the IT really can help with this. We need to doing a lot of experiments about that, and I think for me every project is like they have really big chance to fall, because we don't know what is can be how we can do this good.
Cool.
Thank you. In Slovenia, we just had national elections this year, and we saw that a far-right party won, and their campaign consisted of a lot of hate speech and populism. So right now, I'm not really hopeful for anything, but I think we have to do anything and everything we can to change and to prevent hate speech. Even in national media, it's starting to become a problem. And I think we have to experiment. We have to do a lot of things and see what works, because not everything works for every country, and different solutions will need to be made for each individual country or culture or anything. So I don't know. I'm not very optimistic right now, but I really hope it's not so bad.
I will try to be a little bit optimistic about the situation in the Netherlands. I think the fact that the Dutch government is initiating a project like this, working with municipalities on open source software, is actually quite radical in itself. On the other hand, I think the effort that they put in it is maybe not enough. Because if you do something like this, you actually have a great responsibility. You should make it work. The whole institutional infrastructure is based on like the ideology of new public management. It is people trying not to really go into the civil servants are trying to keep things on a distance, because when it goes wrong, then they are out, in fact. So, and with open source software, you have to really commit. You have to be part of a process, which is really not common in the Netherlands. And I think that's also something we run into when we work with Dutch municipalities on this. So I am positive, but I think we should really make it work. And on the other hand, I'm quite positive. I'm myself living in Amsterdam, and we had a great transition to a left-wing local government, and they are very interested in changing radically, actually, a lot of things. So we're in conversation with them and initiating a lot of new projects. So I think that might also be very worthwhile. And of course it would take years, but on the other hand, it is hopeful.
So this is kind of the usual thing you always say when you do this kind of work is, it's really frustrating and at the same time, incredibly kind of fascinating to be in a space where you see all these great tools, CONSULCon, all the stuff you guys are working on, which kind of show the kind of visions of what a brighter and kind of more inclusive future could look like. And then you spend the other half of your life kind of doing the Westminster stuff and realizing that actually, big, old institutions just don't change that fast. And there's quite a lot of resistance to this. And, that's just the, and I guess the question is how quick can we kind of speed up change? I guess, but on the technology questions, I think there are kind of two things. One is definite observation, and one is more of kind of question I'm grappling with. One is around, I think the big danger of a lot of stuff is that it's very often an agenda driven by people who get technology, who get data, and they lose most people who don't get that. And I still think that the biggest challenge for the movement is to appeal to the grand, to the student, to the people who don't get technology. And my heart sinks when I hear people who, they just got together for a hackathon and they want to solve a problem, say homelessness, and they've never spoken to a homelessness charity, but they're just working on some data, and they come up with that contactless payment for homeless people, because that's great, and not realizing that homeless people don't have bank accounts, so it doesn't work. And I think, I still think we have, that is like the technology problem, and I think we always need to come back and reflect on that, like, who are we deciding that for? Sorry?
Hold it closer to your
Oh, sorry, a little bit louder. And then the other bit, I guess, is a bit more around, I think it was in the question that went around before this panel around kind of the difference between tools and political alignment. I think there is a big risk that digital democracy is seen for something that's kind of center or center-left or left, and the other stuff uses other tools. And I think it's really like, it's democracy, it's for everybody, it's for open conversations across the spectrum. And I often find myself kind of repeating an argument where I kind of mix up the tool and the movement from one particular political side, and I think it's really dangerous because it just repeats the fractions and the kind of, the divide in society. And I think the people who develop the tools need to kind of really bear this in mind, because I often think they come from the center-left or left kind of background. And I think that is a thing that we need to really reflect on as we design these tools. I hope that makes sense, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but I think it's just something that I think when we think about scale and inclusivity, it's a really big thing.
Cool, thank you. I thought I'd open it up as well to the audience. If people have any questions, by all means raise your hand. Yes, we'll take yours and then maybe yours at the same time, and then people can answer accordingly. So would you like to go at the front first? Yep. Yeah.
I was also going to suggest to the organisers to be wearing a little bit from the first panel, because they only got one question. I just wanted to get a general sense of what problem you were trying to solve. I got a sense of transparency, but I was just curious to ask you directly, what problem dominates your mind? What do you want to fix?
Cool, thank you. And the gentleman at the back?
Okay. My name is Sharif Al-Tokali. I'm working for United Nations Development Program in Somalia, and we are working to implement the CONSUL with the municipality of Mogadishu. I just want to understand what is the challenges in facing the citizen from participating in this. How you encourage the citizen to participate through these portals.
Okay, thank you. So how can we encourage citizens to participate, and what are the problems that you're trying to fix in your organizations?
Okay, first question. In my program that I run is like Call for Poland. Our goal is connect organizations need IT skills to better deal with problems, and IT people wanna do something good, and then they don't understand what is good. And we're showing them some projects from some organizations, and they can choose. And they change their minds through this cooperation. They know those people from NGOs, for example, or activists. Sometimes they're even going to do some research. For example, when the with the problem with this old forest, we send a researcher to this forest to check how those protesters doing all this, taking those information. Yeah. Yes, and this is goal. And other aspects, goal for register.io, I think is the goal is to take a better, good information, good quality of information. Yeah, because this is the same information they have on the web page, governmental web page, but in other way. Yes, and other projects are in policy. We asking questions that nobody asking about some things, and we're trying to change how the public administration behave, showing them that we will always ask about those things. Maybe you should just do this without our question, you know, it's like something like that. And how encourage people to participation? Oh, good question. I think in Polish context, I can say in Polish context, and how I work with some public officials from Polish cities, they think they people that are not interested in that, and they not putting an effort to take them. For example, they are not putting a lot of entertainments in a public sphere about it. They don't want to, okay, for example, oh, this is a good example. There is a great, for Australia, planning tools, planning something, I don't know the name, but this is about the planning. If somebody wants to have information about any changes in public sphere in area, they just put email, put the area, and they have information. Easily, local government can do that. Even in Poland, this is open source. This is easy. We can encourage. People, like government, can encourage people to participate in it, building and promoting those tools.
Yeah, I think the problem to solve is to make people more interested or more engaged in the process, and this is different on a national level or on a local level. On a local level, we think now that we started participatory budgeting, that this is a great step toward taking the decisions and things that people on a local level actually want, and the government on a local level can then actually do. And we think that informing people that they have a chance to participate in this way and convincing local governments to give people that option is a great step towards bringing people back from this disillusion that they can't do anything about government, that the government is this magical thing that works for outside interest or for lobbyists or for someone, and that they can't actually change anything. But this is only on a local level. On a national level, it's a different beast entirely that can't really be fixed or changed in that way that fast. And I don't really know right now what the fix is or the solution, but I think the main problem right now is that traditional parties are more beholden to outside interest and to lobbyists and to corporations than to their people, and I think that's the main problem why people are so disillusioned with government.
I think transparency in itself is not the goal, but it is more accountability, I would say. So you need information to keep everybody, the people with responsibilities accountable. So I think that is more our goal than transparency as such. And the other thing is, I think what I noticed in the last years is that we started off with building trust between citizens and governments. And we thought actually the problem was the citizens, because that is what you read all the time. But we noticed that it is actually the other way around. So there's actually not the trust of governments to give really responsibility to citizens. So the issue, the topic is actually that we try to turn that around and to influence actually the people in power to give up certain responsibilities to citizens. And for the rest, we work on what you could say it's sort of system innovation. So on the one hand, we actually want to change the structures of systems by critical analysis, by the discussions, debates I already referred to, but on the other hand also to try to present also possible solutions. So to try to see where is the innovation going on and how could it help coming out of this problem in a system. And my colleague from Waag Society, Marleen Sticker, she's director of Waag Society, she always says, if you can't open it, you can't own it. So I think that is actually sort of the slogan for why open source is necessary. It's the ownership also. And that is actually something that you could see through the whole democracy system. People don't feel ownership anymore, and therefore I think you should. We should really take care that in every layer of the process, people are part of it and are feeling ownership and can keep everyone accountable.
There's not a lot left for me to say, I think, but I guess just on the second question, there's lots to say around how to get participation, but I think the main thing, and I hope the people who run Excel platforms will agree, is, like, show people what you're doing on the basis of what they're asking you to do, or tell them why you're not doing it. These things really fail when citizens start committing time and effort into letting you know what they want, what the issues are, and you just treat it as a listening exercise for you, and then it goes into a black box, and you might do something in 2 years. But this is a conversation. You tell people what it is you're doing. And also within that, I think sometimes the misconception is this is now a really intense, ongoing conversation. So not everybody would want to engage all the time. People have lives. They might vote on a particular topic. They might engage with one particular issue on the street, and then they might stay silent for 2 years, and that's fine. It's not like a live kind of hive mind that's constantly working for the government. So, but actually, there's quite a lot of good insight around kind of how you design these things well, luckily. On your first question, I guess I'm quite lucky. I'm a researcher, so I get to kind of I'm quite almost agnostic around the particular challenge. I'm more curious about the method and the tool and how we apply it. So in our case, I mentioned we have 5 areas, and one example being healthcare. You have examples like Google, like DeepMind, and others who are trying to apply AI to healthcare. But it's all around kind of closed solutions, and often about kind of supporting clinicians or pharma companies to make decisions around how to treat you or how to prescribe a drug to you. There's nothing in there, for example, around how can you use like machine learning on kind of patient data to enable patient networks, people who live the whole life with a chronic health condition, to live a better life, or how to enable a collective of patients to put input into that data, but also get stuff out of that data to improve the way they live with their condition. Cancer is probably the example where we have the most data, and it's also where we have the most people in need of more support. That's not drugs specialists or hardware. So I think that for me is like a classic area where but I want to understand how. I don't know what the solution is, but I know that's the challenge, and I think based on what I said earlier, that this is an area where there's real opportunity, but it just requires a completely different conversation around, in this case, what does AI and machine learning in healthcare mean?
Fantastic. Have we got? We've got another 5 minutes. Has anyone got any other questions that they'd like to ask? Any women's voices at all? We've got 4 men and a lady and a woman up here. Is there any other women in the audience who would like to speak? We have a bit of balance. No?
Tengo el pelo largo, pero todavía no soy mujer. Pero podría, no tendría por qué no ser. No, solamente felicitarlos por el trabajo que están haciendo, porque de una u otra manera todos aportamos granitos de arena. Pero creo que hay que no perder de vista que el objetivo es, porque todo lo que estamos haciendo son herramientas, el objetivo es un mundo más participativo, porque tiene que ser un mundo sostenible. y la agenda obliga a que ese mundo sea más participativo. Entonces, no perder de vista que lo que tenemos que lograr es que la participación sea una fuerza articuladora de la sociedad en términos generales.
Thank you. Anyone else like to ask anything at the back?
Thank you very much. My name is Alois Paulin. I see there are 4 experts on these topics here, and I would just, I can stand up also, sorry about that. I would just like to ask you a very simple question, just for your opinion. Okay, we've been talking today a lot about open source, about participative budget, things like this. And now let's just picture that. We're living today in a world which is not perfect, right? There's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of problems. So we are speaking about those problems. But now let us imagine that we live in a world where we achieve your expectations, okay? Now we all of a sudden have everything in open source. We have the participatory budget and everything is perfect. Now in this kind of perfect world, I would just like to know, how would it look like? Very briefly, what would be different than in comparison to what we have today? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, so I'll give you 30 seconds maximum, and I'll start speaking and cut you off otherwise, on your reflections on the future, the perfect future.
I mean, that's a very hard question, I think. But I think a perfect future is where you have an opinion, a political opinion, or something about the government that you want to know, and you can get an answer or get someone who will listen to your problems. I think that's the perfect future, where you can ask a question, you can ask for something, and you get an answer back that's not just thank you, but we can't do that.
Cool.
But I think it's a very hard question, so I don't have anything more
That's fine.
to say.
I think the nice thing is that Mr. 1 gave the answer to Mr. 2. So, so if you would turn it around, I think you have your question and answer. I think you get a more sustainable, more participatory, and in a way also, therefore, I think a more responsive system. And of course, we don't know what exactly will come out of it, but we see the frustration coming out of the system as we have it now. And we know that the political system is frustrating so much that all kinds of protests and movements coming up, and you never know if it's one-on-one, the result of one thing or the other. But I know that when people have the feeling that they are heard, that will certainly improve the health of a political system.
I guess it's just, if you went back 150 years and you asked your question, people would say, you know, the perfect world, everyone can vote, both men and women, and we can change the governments every like 4 or 5 years, perfect world. And, you know, you ask a question about what does the future look like now, I can't tell you, like, these things evolve over time. But I think I agree with your point, but I think it's just, we also have to recognize that these things are messy and they evolve in directions we don't really know. I also know every time you get something right, it breaks. So there's also kind of just that to bear in mind.
2 seconds.
The best future, I think this is like, for me, it's like there is a lot of public participation process in deliberative way, with a lot of education, when citizens feel they can understand public issues, even complicated, and they have influence on that, and they saying that to kids and family and around, and they feel that they are building something together, and they feel that this together with the local government. They have connected and they have influence, for me, but deliberative way, for sure.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you to our four panelists. I'd like to give them a round of applause, and Miguel, I'll pass over to you.
Perfect, we did it on time, wonderful, lo hemos hecho. So please, whoever didn't register, still, please, if you can register in the bottom floor, that would be wonderful. We are now leaving for the official opening of the meeting, that is, will be with the mayor and other interesting people. Anyway, we thought it was really great to open really the meeting with all this amazing organization that we have the luck of start working with them or being engaged with them. So thank you really very much to all panelists. We are really amazing and to have them here. For whoever wants to go to the official place and you don't know how to go, we have here Enrique and Paula who are gonna go there. Enrique is gonna go by foot. It's around like 30 minutes walking, and Paula is gonna go by bus, by public bus, by the amazing Madrid public transportation system that we have. So if you want to follow them, also there will be Chema, who is the person who is helping with the headphones. He will also go with the bus, so you can follow any of the three to go to the other building. Please, and remember tomorrow to get your badges again to come here. Thank you very much.